KGP Beats.
Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation.
I know it's a lot to digest, but that doesn't mean you should digress. Stay on the studies, knowledge is power. As man think it's always he, be a lot in man, G-O-D. Generator, operator, destroyer. Hold up, give it a chance before you throw in the towel and call it quits. Take time to think what the prophet Drew Ali did. He bankrupted the U.S. so you could be free. Brought back El-Bay, Al-Day, and Ali. He brought back civilization, founders mainframe. Not only in appearance but an abstract strain. Brought back the constitutional fold again. I know pigs got guns, just maintain. Put the guns down. Have you lost your brain? They got nukes, tanks, and drone bomber planes. Yeah, black power, but RBG, a Moroccan flag colors. Can't you see? I know your sight is going, but you're not blind yet. It's all in your mind anyway, so don't mind threats. Life is too short. Not talking to rap pimp, calling himself nigga when that's a chimp. Cave dweller, hey fella, a monkey is who you think you are, you stupid junkie. High off ignorance and ignorance. From sheiks warning you of King Alfred plans. It's not about being in courts, but make them hear you. Declare your nationality, don't let them scare you.
Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind
50 posts a
elevation.
day of brutality on Facebook. I know it's a lot, I still say study law books. Cause uniform pigs, wolves with badges creep. Ready to sink teeth in cause you act like sheep. Passive and docile, needing a shepherd. And the one you choose got rooms with flush checkered. Compass and square sigils with a G in the middle. Have masses follow them like he's playing the fiddle. Have masses follow them cause masses scared shitless. Stay writless but post a world star when they bear witness. Always waiting for the rights from civil strictness. All your black leaders are on King Alfred hit list. Dirty Moors smelling like they got shit dip. Picture for Aquarian age, make them switch hit. Like when I found 2 ounces and did a quick flip. From black to Moorish American, give devils split lips. Men walking with slit pupils and lipless. Talking my language like this is Genesis. I used to be one of society's menaces. Acting devilish makes me shake my head every time I reminisce about the past. Living fast at night, no days. Full ahead of ways and low throw days. I know those days won't be coming back again. Change is good, but I still beg no friends.
Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation. I use the mind elevation. Yo, the time is wasting. I use the mind elevation.
We're gonna start today with Wednesday, October 16, 2013, Prime newspaper. All right?
Sorry, Wednesday what? October?
October 16th,
Okay.
Okay.
Prime newspaper. Chief. Just called you, buddy. You felt it, huh? You just called your name, man. Chief Emmanuel Mbulu. Lichens given to breathing. Right? And it's a Nigerian chief, tribal chief or whatever, right? So just went to my mom's house, right? And she just, oh yeah, I think you need to see this or whatever, right? Didn't say anything, just hand me the paper, right? So we just pass the paper on, and then you could just circle that around so that it could be clear that all these, all these debate guys that push that idea that, quote unquote Africans have nothing to do with Moors or whatever like that, right? When that's a Nigerian chief, right? A Nigerian chief wearing a fez. on Pride magazine or Pride newspaper, which is from out here. And there's no other reason that that's on the front page if it wasn't for us. There's no other reason for them to put that picture up there on that paper unless they're telling us something. Forget everybody who doesn't know anything. But the people who know, they're making a statement with that. And then some people are just gonna blow it off, it's not gonna do nothing. It's just a picture on the Pride, yeah, or whatever. Right? But are the so-called, Nigerians mad at that? Like when they see Moors, right? And then everybody, SETI and all these people come out bashing Moors. I don't see Nigerians bashing that. I'm pretty sure nobody else in the continent is going to be bashing this because it's becoming clear because of all the information that Moore has been putting out over the past little while. It's becoming clear that more people know about this than it's let on. More people know about nationality, birthrights, customs, national customs, right? Because keep in mind, on his fez, he has the crown on it, right? He has a crown on the fez, no different than Moors put the little pin or whatever on their fez just to represent what they're connected to, right? So we just wanted to put that out. You had something?
No. I forgot the brother's name, but there was a Nigerian writer who passed away a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
And it was on CNN. And they showed him in the whole tribe and the people around him, all of them wearing fezzes.
Right.
And I brought it to the attention of this lady I know, and she was one of his big supporters, and she's always been against what I've been telling her. So she saw it and she's like, oh, he just did that for the day.
For the day. For the picture.
For the picture.
Yeah, like this guy, right?
So why would you put himself,
just for the
picture.
Right?
So why would you put yourself out there like that for just one picture? Because a picture's 1,000 words, isn't it?
Right. And then also too.
But sometimes it's not the man, it's just the message. So he might have just done it for that.
For the message.
Right. There you go.
Right.
Which is fine.
Right? But then what message is he sending in this picture then? If he's a Nigerian chief of
Corporate.
right?
It's a corporate.
Right, exactly.
Right.
So
But that's not on the front.
but it's not on the front. If this was on the front, then we gotta question the brother a little bit about, what are you really on? But right?
But on the
They
inside.
didn't put the entrepreneur and philanthropist picture
Corporate.
on the cover, right? They put the brother. So what I wanted to put this up. It's maybe few minutes or whatever, maybe not even that long. This was from the Polite and Malik Zulu Shabazz debate that they had, right? And you know how it goes already, right? Everybody's out there trying to sell something to their people, trying to convince their people of something so they can get down with whatever they're doing. Using debates as a platform to denounce other people's stuff secretly. You know what I mean? Not coming out and just say, or not just challenging who they want to challenge. They challenge somebody else and use that debate to, hit below the belt and all that stuff. So Malik Zulu Shabazz makes some statements that we want to put out there. Now, recently, maybe last 2-3 days or something like that, it's come out that Malik Zulu Shabazz left the New Black Panther Party. So he's not the head anymore. Right? He said he's done with it. Right? After they're saying that it's because of the debate and that he got crushed in the debate, that's why he stepped back. Right? Around the time of the debate, a little after the debate, we had a Canaanland Morris class where we were talking about black leaders or whatever, and Malik Zulu Shabazz came up, right? And we were talking about the fraudulent perspective that he's presenting to the people, being the head of, well, ex-head now of the new Black Panther Party, because he's an attorney, right? And if he's an attorney, that means he's an officer of the court. And if he's an officer of the court, then that means he has no obligation to these people who he says he's the head of. He's actually selling them out, right? Kind of on the low, right? And in my opinion, that's why he jumped ship. Because if, you know, we got maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago, right? About 2 weeks ago, called Taj, right? Still check, see what he's saying or whatever. And Taj is saying he's watching Canaanland Moore's class. Right?
Okay.
So if Taj is watching Canaanland Moore's class, trust me, Malik Zulu Shabazz is watching Canaanland Moore's class. All these black guys who are doing all these debates, they are watching Canaanland Moore's class. And the activity that we put out there, like for example, like with the newspaper, right? There's Moors all over the country, you know, North America, South America, Central America, across the Atlantic, on the continent, north into Europe, that know that Canaanland Moors have a newspaper. And we never told them anything, right?
Wow.
So you can understand how many people know about this, that this is not a secret, right? So Malik Zulu Shabazz pretty much opened up a can of worms in what we're about to play right now. And this is gonna play heavy into our consideration into why he left. Forget about debates and whatever, right? Because I even had to retract my statement about him being a sellout or whatever because of this, right? Because of what he drops right here, right? So just keep
Right.
your ears, yeah, you can just keep your ears open.
Allah is my witness, Islam to all the Moors. I would have nothing but respect for Prophet Noble but he did not teach what these Moors is out here teaching today. They have come up with some whole new.
No, this is the black guy.
Okay, now does anybody understand that? Okay, now I've been hearing this for years, and I study all kind of law, and I ain't understood it yet. I have I love them. Let me say this, as Allah is my witness, Islam to all the Moors. I would have nothing but respect for Prophet Noble but he did not teach what these Moors is out here teaching today. They have come up with some whole new teaching about secured party and status correction and all of those teachings, and I don't understand it at all. And you know why I don't understand it? Because goddamn it don't ever work. I'm not attacking the Moors, I'm making a legal point. Because in another way, I'm a Moor too. I bear witness to the greatness of the Moorish Empire. But this is what Polite is teaching. Polite, you know this ain't no new teaching. This is that Moorish teaching that you have reinvented. And you have dropped the teachings of Malachi York and put this Moorish teaching, and you're not even teaching what your master teacher taught you to teach. In his first book, the pale man, he dogs the white man, calls him the cursed seed of Cain, and has whole books dedicated to the white man crawling out of the caves and hills of Europe. And throughout the book, he calls the white man the devil. He teaches us against Leviathan. If York teaches against Leviathan, how the hell are you not teaching this Leviathan teaching called sovereignty? Sovereignty comes from the Leviathan believer, Thomas Hobbes, and this was to resolve some jurisdictional disputes between the white folks.
All right?
Alright.
Yeah. Let's just get some thoughts on that. You can just throw them out, whatever thoughts you got on.
Why was he bashing the saying about the new Moors? That's what I wonder.
Right, because remember that he's an attorney, right? So it might come across that he's bashing new Moors, but he made some specific connections to these so-called new Moors and what they teach, and that they don't teach what Noble Drew Ali teaches. Right? First thing he said was
Secure
party.
right? Secured party. Right? And then he also mentioned Dr. York, right? Who Bolide is supposedly his student or whatever, right? Supposedly his student, right? So he mentioned this term, secured party, in relation to New Mormons, right? The secured, now, also to remember he said that he doesn't understand it, right? Why? Because it doesn't work, right? He didn't understand it because it doesn't work. Because the truth of the matter is that this demonstration is really UCC1 filing, which really doesn't work. Right? Because if you have to file with some entity that you don't know about, you don't know who the head of it is, you don't know what their mission statement is, you don't know what their articles of incorporation is, you don't know anything about them. All you know is you just take this filing right here and you go file it with these people called UCC or called whatever, and then you have freedom or sovereignty, which is a fraud. And Malik Zulu Shabazz knows that, right? Also to remember that right? That's Malcolm. Malik al-Shabazz, right? And for him to adopt this name, no different than right? Now this is not the boxer, but the other black guy that pushes there, whatever they push, right? Remember that Ali is Prophet's name, right? And Muhammad is Elijah's name, right? So Malik Shabazz took Malcolm X's energy, and then he became new Black Panther Party head, right? And he took over for Khalid.
Speaking of.
Right? He took over for Khalid, who came out when he was the head of the new Black Panther Party. I am a Moor. And then he all of a sudden got bumped up, right? And now Malik Zulu Shabazz now, and remember, keep in mind that this is not Malik Zulu Shabazz polite class. This is a debate. And if anybody's seen the Alim Seti debate, the clips on YouTube, all right, check that out. Only so you can see the amount of people that were at that. And the amount of people that were at that were at this. When Malik Zulu Shabazz, the head of the new Black Panther Party, came out and said, secured party or whatever, because he's a lawyer. Remember, he made the statement too that I'm speaking from a legal perspective. So even in the fraud of legality, secured party stuff doesn't work. Right? And filings and these things. These are the things that in the form of a debate, right? Like we were talking about, they have a debate and then they throw stuff in, jab people, and then kind of step back and nobody not gonna comment or whatever because it's a debate. You're just there as spectator just to watch these guys go back and forth with each other when they're really putting things out to let people know what the position is.
But isn't the black party, isn't that, it's called again, the Black Panther thing, isn't it a party?
It's not a party in the sense of politics,
Yeah.
right? But their exercising of what they're doing is political, hence party, right? But it's not a party, like they're not running for mayor, president, or whatever. They're just some individuals who have a certain belief system,
Okay.
right? Now, also to remember that it was Black Panther Party, and the Black Panther Party is still around. The new Black Panther Party is just like there's Moors and the new Moors, right? So the teachings, and this goes right back also too to the connection with Dr. York and Polite, because again, Malik Zulu Shabazz making the statement, well, if you're a student of Dr. York, then why are you pushing Noble Drew Ali's idea? And trying to infuse Noble Drew Ali's idea with Dr. York's information. When the reality is, Dr. York himself is L, right? And Nuwapians are a nation of Moors. So it's not really like Polite's trying to attach what a Moorish to him, right? But the teachings of the Nuwapians is Moorish, right? But people who just look at the what's presented without this taking in the information for themselves, right? They would think that Dr. York's just another black guy that had information and he was trying to help his people get out of whatever, when he was dealing with Moorish nationality and birthrights and sovereignty and all these things that Malik Zulu Shabazz is saying kind of doesn't work, right? So when the Moors start exercising and being themselves, people who have faith and trust in what Noble Drew Ali brought and the fact that we are Moors or whatever, they'll stand up and say so. Right? Even in the winds of getting eggs thrown at them and tomatoes and getting cursed out and all that. Because remember, keep in mind, so when he made the statement, right? When Malik Zulu Shabazz made the statement, Islam to all my Moors, right? Usually you get What it was?
Question.
Pin drop, right? I honor Noble Drew Ali. Ding, here, pin drop, right? Everything that he said talking about the Moors, pin drop. As soon as you start talking about black stuff, right? The cameraman,
That's right.
right? Cameraman wasn't that's right, and when he honors to Noble Drew Ali, zip lip, right? I'm a Moor, because he came out and said it. It's not. Remember, this is New Black Panther Party. The guys who talk about kill crackers and all this stuff. Their head guy came out and said, I'm a Moor, for the second time. Because Khalid did it already. But only the heads are doing this. What happened to all these people below them who honor them and say, yeah, we respect them? Same thing we talked about. And when Khalid dropped it, I'm a Moor, right? And he had on his black army uniform and everything, right? Repping New Black Panther Party. The acknowledged and accepted head came on and said that he's a Moor. Then they assassinate him, right? Now, the runner-up, no, he came out now and said that he's a Moor. Openly, in a debate with Polite, who's not some nobody. Majority of people you mention Polite to, they know who you're talking about. They're not going to be in the dark. Malik Zulu Shabazz, just to put it on the record, I think 05 or something like that, when we were trying to bring him here, right? We were working with this other group, you know, black group, when we were in the black whatever. To bring him here, they stopped him at the border and didn't let him come. Right? Because apparently he's a Jew basher. And Toronto is predominantly Jews, so they made their calls or whatever to make sure he doesn't come here. Stop him at the border. Right? We're not talking about somebody who has felonies or nothing like that. We're not talking about somebody who doesn't have a passport, can't travel around the world. We're talking about somebody who they say he's a Jew basher, so he can't come into Toronto. Right? And stop them at the border. Right? And now 2013, you know, forget all that black stuff. Right? Because you really have to forget it, because once you get to the part where not only are you saying Noble Drew Ali, we're not talking about somebody just mentioning his name. Like, he's saying that he backs Noble Drew Ali and what Noble Drew Ali taught. And not only does he back what Noble Drew Ali taught, I'm a Moor too. In front of everybody at this debate.
It's going out too.
In front of everybody. And then we hear that what? Malik Zulu Shabazz leaves New Black Panther Party. And that happened recently. Like a couple days ago he left.
So when was this debate?
This debate was about a month or two ago or something like that.
Oh, really?
It was early October.
October?
Yeah.
That soon?
Yeah.
So October. Early October was the debate. And this man came out and said, I have nothing to do with that anymore. Why? Because he's a Moor. And he knows that he's a Moor. Whether he takes it that step further and, you know what I mean, go join the temple and file paperwork and whatever, that's up in the air. But the fact that he could come out on this debate and say it admittingly with conviction and with confidence, I'm Moor. I honor Noble Drew Ali. I appreciate what Noble Drew Ali did. You don't hear people mention this name. When people start mentioning this name, know that things are changing. Because this name doesn't get mentioned at all. Only by Moors. Because to mention Noble Drew Ali's name is to throw every single black leader under the bus, including himself. Because the lessons of Noble Drew Ali are not legal, but lawful. And there's a difference between lawful and legal. Right? And that's why if you go, just go listen to Malik Zulu Shabazz, all his past things or whatever, right? All he talks about, legal this, legal that. They don't mention lawful or not lawful at all. No mention whatsoever, right? And it's mainly because they know, right? So like, if we have right, like we were talking about, like we were talking about, in that let's pass that to yeah. Like we were talking about in that book that you have there, the monks, what was it? Monks of War. Monks of War, right? In Monks of War, right? In Monks of War, when you go to the index and you look up Moors, right? It says, see Granada in the index, right? And then when you go to Granada, then they have, page 115, page 68, page whatever, and the list goes on and on and on, right? But then when you start reading through the book, and we just went through a couple pages or whatever, right? You don't see Moors in there, right? In the beginning, you see Saracen, Muslims, right? There's something else that in there. Saracens, Muslims. I think it was Arab, I think. Right?
Well, Arabs, yeah, they had Arabs too. I think.
So to see, if you're doing, okay, Moors is synonymous with Saracen, Muslims, and Arabs. So anytime you're doing studying and you see Saracen, Muslim, Arabs, and you don't see Moors mentioned, then you're supposed to know that they know about the Moors, they're just not telling. Right?
Even
like,
Berbers.
Berbers, yeah, they mentioned Berbers, yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Alright, fam. Islam.
All right, family. Right? So once you see these terms, Saracen, Berber, Muslims, Arab, or even Muslim.
No. You could add Turks to that list as well too.
Turks.
Because that's exactly what they hide in.
Right? You see all these terms right here. Know that the person presenting knows about Moors. They're just not mentioning this. Because it's just like with the Prophet. Once you mention the name, all this stuff right here is of no use. Shouldn't even be bringing it up. It shouldn't even be, a hunt. You see Granada, right? But but if we use our volition, right? As soon as you say Granada, you already know they're talking about the Moors. Right? If you're gonna look up in the index Moors, and they're gonna say, well, we don't have Moors in the index, but go under Granada, and then you'll find what you're looking for. Right? Because everybody knows that Granada was the stronghold of the Moors. And that's documented fact, that nobody's gonna find anything to refute that. Like nothing whatsoever, right? So we wanted to present, just to put it on the record that Malik Zulu Shabazz, the ex-head of the new Black Panther Party, proclaimed himself a Moor. 2013. Right? And he did it at the polite debate. Right? And I'm pretty sure House of Consciousness was the one that set that up. So not only does he know and polite know, right? But the guy behind the camera knows, Sa Netter, because he sat down with Taj and he did all these, you got DVDs right there with him and Taj sitting down talking and building, right? Not only does he know but he also knows because of Seer, because he sat down with a Seer and he did on the Burgundy couch, you know what I mean? And they had the long DVD about the Moors. Right? Well, not only a Seer, Taj and Booker T. Coleman were on the red couch, right? Talking about the Moors and history of the Moors and all that. But how come the common people aren't stepping it up? How come the common people aren't stepping up? It's only the heads, right? We can put Adam Van Sertem up here, right? Everybody knows he's a black historian, you know what I mean? We honor him and whatever. But all his books are about the Moors. He doesn't have black books, right? Ivan Van Sertima, put it on the record again. There was a lecture that Taj was at, and Taj asked him, why don't you just tell the people that they're Moors? Like, why are you writing books sort of, like backing off of letting the people know who they are? Because if I do, they'll deport me. Right? This is historian. I mean, that everybody knows and appreciates. And he told Brother Taj that he can't talk about the Moors in a first party perspective in his books because they'll deport him. Right? If he talks about the Moors, they'll deport him. If you go to UFT, York, George Brown, wherever, right? Go find history teacher. Go ask them, yo, you guys teach about the Moors in your class? They'll tell you no, you can't. Why? Because it's not in the curriculum. It's not in the curriculum. You got history about everybody else in the curriculum, and you're not going to talk about the Moors? Like, why not talk about the Moors? Well, it's just not in the curriculum.
Wasn't there one video I was watching where they said that immigrants coming here, they would stop at Ellis Island?
Right.
And then they were informed that if they talked to the Moors and told them about their history, they'd be deported, right?
Right.
So that's how, when people came here to begin with, they were instructed to not talk to the natives and tell them about their history, or else they would be sent back.
So Ellis Island is
it's like the immigration point, right?
Let's say gateway. Right? This is the gateway of
There.
naturalization. Right? And similar to here, that's the place where you go and then you get your constitution and you get your whatever and you say your oath, whatever, and then you become a quote-unquote U.S. citizen, right? So now, another Moor was telling me too, he was speaking with, I can't remember who it was, but he was on the bus, right? He had his fez on and all that, and he was talking with a brother on the bus from Arabia or the continent or something, whatever, right? And the brother pulled out his passport. Either his passport or his visa or something like that, right? And under status, it said white. And he looked like a brother. Right? Like a brother looked like us. Under his status, had white. And then the brother pulled out the status guideline or status brochure or whatever. And then it had, it's sectioned off by jurisdiction and was saying, okay, well, these guys over here, they'll get the status black, and these people over here get the status white, right? Which is where it comes in to what Ivan Van Sertima and a few other people speak about, that they're told when they come here, after they become US citizen, that they can't mingle and mix and have conversations with the common people. Because majority of the common people are indigenous that assume they're US or Canadian citizens. They assume that they're US or Canadian citizens, right? When they're really indigenous. But if you have people from another place in the world who, when you say black people to them, they really don't know what that is. They never heard it before. They don't know what context you're speaking in. They don't know, are you talking about, like, there's no reference point in their mind.
Or they have their own black people, but it's not our color.
Well, it's not a color. Black people to them is a whole different thing than what black people to us are, right? And when they come here and they go through the gateway of naturalization and become Canadian/US citizens, they're coached not to talk to the indigenous people. This is why Taj makes the joke all the time that the only way that people from other nations outside of North America deal with us is if it's liquor store, blunts, weed, rap music. That they don't talk about, solar power and, farming and, commerce and things like that. All they talk about is how are they gonna extract fiat from us. That's the only way they deal with us, right? It's like when we go to the Portuguese spot, right across there, right? Like Moors have gone in there, right? From here, Moors have gone in there and sat in there and talked with those people. Just build with them, just, casual conversation. Because they went in there, they had their fez on or whatever. They recognized that, oh, you obviously know who you are. So, hi, how you doing? We got flags. Oh yeah, customers bring all these flags in here, And that's what they said to one brother that went over there. I just told him, oh yeah, customers bring these flags in. Because they have a string of flags up there. Just in conversation. Yeah, right? Which is the signal that they know that we have a flag. Or why would you bring it up? You obviously have a flag.
We see it all the time.
Right? Why don't you bring your flag over and just put it over there so so you're represented, because you're a customer of ours. You know what I mean? The couple stores down, there's a convenience store, couple stores down, right? Moore's done been in there. And just, casual conversation, gonna buy a drink or whatever. Casual conversation. and end up in there 15, 20 minutes just talking about history and stuff with Asian. He can't even speak English properly. But he knows enough that when he sees the fez that, okay, I can have a conversation with you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Matter of fact, let's have a conversation. You know, let me see really what you know, where you're coming from, right? Because this position right here, right? That position is non-existent in other places in the world. Every single person that I talk to that isn't from North America says the only place they ever heard this was North America.
Don't understand it.
And they don't know what the hell's going on over here. They don't understand what this means, right? But if you have, you know, you have Black Panther Party, right? Which they got their ass kicked more than anybody. You know, it's not like they their position wasn't legit, right? Their position wasn't. No, I got the screen right here. Sorry.
Oh, sorry? Oh, okay.
Their position is not legit, right? But people push it like it's legit. People push it like they had some impact in the community or whatever like that. But, you know, if we look at the condition of our people, just that alone, if we just look at our condition of our people, we'll see that all these black organizations, whatever, failed. Right? Clearly failed. Because look at our condition compared to everybody else's condition that came here after us. And we're not even talking about worldwide. We're just talking about the jurisdiction that we live in. Right? How come the jurisdiction that we live in still, to this day, all we have is the US as, you know, black area. Right? Or so-called hoods and blocks or whatever. Right? When the Hindus come here, right? Hindus come here, they are successful, prosperous, whatever, in 2-3 years, right? They have their own parade and all this or whatever, street shutting down for them, mayors going out to go talk to their stuff, right? All right, family. Islam. Right? Brought up, Turks come here, right? They have their own area, right? They have a block of stores that's theirs, right? They're keeping funds going into their community. If we go and buy something from the Turks aren't coming to buy from us. You know, why? Because we don't have anything. We can't even sell anybody anything. But you know, we consume. Right? Chinese, they're not even coming here. They're staying wherever they're at, and they're buying stuff from where they're at. Right? They're buying corporations that are in North America, where they're at. They're not coming over here to buy a corporation and then take it back. They're staying over there and buying the stuff here. You could even do your research on China buying UK. All these United Kingdom corporations or whatever, right? All these United Kingdom corporations getting bought out by China right now.
Actually, most of the lower Manhattan is owned by them.
Right?
It's a reality of it though.
It's a reality. Now, what we have to ask ourselves though is, Are they buying land or paper,
Bricks and mortar.
right? Because,
They already bought the paper. Remember, they own the U.S. debt, right?
okay,
So based on that influence, now they're able to buy the land for cheap.
right? So they bought the US, we'll put Canada in there too, because they're down with the fraud.
80% of the bonds, U.S. and Canada, they own it.
All right. So they own the paper, right? Which are bonds, right? Okay. Bonds means debt,
And debt is people though.
huh?
Isn't debt the people? There's no money.
Okay. Right?
That is more or less the people more or less the resource that they're buying.
Okay. So instead of buying all these markers, they buy the corporation. And then in owning the corporation, you own the markers, right? So when they say that they're buying the Canada and the US debt, right? You can't buy debt. It's an impossibility to be able to buy debt, right? You can pay off somebody's debt, but why would you do that? Unless you want to own those people or something that they have, right? Which is the people.
That's only under the corporate, in the corporate.
Right. The people who don't know that
That's what I said. That's what it comes down to.
Calling themselves-
Resources. That's the thing.
calling themselves this
Yeah.
makes them the actual payment of the debt.
Yeah. The resource.
Collection agency.
Right?
Collection agency.
Yeah. They get in with it.
And the collection agency is
CRA. Yeah.
CRA and IRS. That if they don't get bought this way, right, then these guys step in to make sure that they collect. Right? Because all of it is only on paper. That's why they push fiat, not gold and silver.
If you buy a house in Canada with gold, then you realize you pay no tax on it, right? You never pay land tax on it.
Now, if you buy, okay, so let's put it in perspective, right? If you buy a house,
Hmm?
I need to buy those.
Uh-huh.
Just claim the land.
if a house is worth 500,000, right?
Mhm.
And you buy it with 500-pound gold pieces or whatever,
Mhm.
right? Which means that you're not, you don't pay tax or whatever.
That's right.
Right? Who's really benefiting from this transaction? The person who's getting the house, or the person who's getting the gold pieces?
I'm just saying, if you don't want to pay the taxes, right, you become independent of CRA.
But see, that's the ploy to get you to give up the gold.
I don't dispute that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying that if you don't want to be part and parcel of it, but you want to own the property, that's another way of getting around it.
No, I mean, well, you can just ask the bank for the deed of trust and keep your gold.
And they're just gonna give it to the trust like that.
Right?
They're just gonna give it to you.
No, well,
So if they don't have
if
it.
they don't have it,
That's the whole fraud.
they don't have it,
Uh-huh.
which they don't, why are you paying them? Mortgage. But again, you have to ask the question first in order to be able to move to the next stage, right? So and this is what the whole religion or whatever the real teachings of so-called religion is for the people not to question authority.
That I agree with.
And once you don't question authority, then whoever claims it,
You're chicken in a hen
you're
house.
pretty much.
So
right?
what is your recommendation regarding to financial freedom? Because you're saying about the Chinese have this and these other people have this and whatever. What is your recommendation towards that? Owning the property, owning the house, that sort of thing.
It starts with nationality.
Okay.
Because if, let's say, we have the 500,000, right,
Mm-hmm.
in gold pieces,
Okay.
right? But we have that in a bank account. The last name Stanley. The Europeans own that. Even though it's in your possession,
Mm-hmm.
the name Stanley denotes possession.
Okay.
So if I'm a European, my name's Stanley, and you're Asiatic and your name's Stanley, everything you own is mine. No matter how long you had it. All I have to do is make the claim on it.
So your name supersedes mine, you're saying?
The name that you,
That's what I'm saying, yeah,
the
that's
name
what
that you
he's-
claim,
Uh-huh.
as long as it belongs to someone else's family, which they trace back through, this is where it all goes back to heritage. They go back to the coat of arms and they trace you back to some guy in Europe.
So he supersedes me.
Yeah,
100%.
right.
Okay.
Just like how is it that China is able to go into Africa and buy out Africa? Because Africa is really South Asia. It's not really its own continent.
They're
Right?
down there right now taking all the gold.
Right? That's actually South Asia.
Okay.
Right?
But we're back to my question is. What is your recommendation regarding to,
It starts here.
okay, and
Nationality.
how's that accomplished?
By
Remember, I'm totally ignorant to this.
right. So this is accomplished by you knowing. Right? Knowing. And the only way you know is by studying.
Okay.
That's why they say, if you want to hide it from a nigger, put it in a book.
Yeah.
Because they know we don't study.
Okay.
Right? And,
So is there a step-by-step book or,
Gotta study indigenously.
the step by step is really
like number one?
getting,
I'm just saying,
getting around. This is the first step.
Okay.
Come to the temple
Okay.
and hear the Morse talk, so you can open up your thinking peripherals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we start moving from there. But a lot of people, a lot of people get to this perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they sit and
Jump to
it
step
seems, it seems like so much, you know what I mean? Oh, this is too deep. I can't really get into all this because I got work, and when am I gonna study? And when, real simple. What's your name? Well, my name's John Jackson. And you're a slave, came from Africa. Yeah. Okay, so before they took you from Africa, didn't your ancestors have a name from over there? Yeah. All right. So now you're in America. Yeah. How you get that name? Oh, you got it from slave master. And they, we know that.
Yeah.
All right. So if you know you got a name from slave master, wouldn't it be in their best interest to get out of that position before we do anything else? Before we start talking about houses, $5,000 million in gold and all this.
No, I'm just asking
Right.
because I just finished a fight with CRA, so.
So let's bring it on the record. What's the fight? Let's bring it up right now. Let's do it right now.
Because at the end of the day, you still need to live somewhere.
Right?
On the street is not an option, you know what I'm saying?
Right. But remember,
Who's the CRA?
right? Just because you said live, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where do you live?
You live in your body.
Mm-hmm.
You don't live in
That's right.
house, apartment, box, or whatever.
Okay.
Right, car. Right? That's not where you live,
Okay.
right? That's where you,
Your house, your possessions?
that's where you domicile.
Okay.
But you might not even really domicile there because you really domicile on the continent. Right?
Okay.
So when we say, like, you know, like for example, right? Like I pay rent, but I'm not looking at it from the perspective of, well, I'm indigenous, so I have to pay rent because, you know, whatever, right? What I'm giving them is fiat. So I'm giving them fiat, which is worth nothing, right? To live in this room and have a fridge, a stove, shower, bathe when I want,
Okay,
eat
what
when I
does the
want.
word fiat mean?
Fiat is basically paper money,
Okay, alright.
right? Or debt paper
Okay.
money, right? So being that I'm giving them fiat, right, which is paper money, which is debt paper, which isn't really worth anything,
Okay.
I'm really getting everything for free. You go to the store, you put down a loonie, that's really an IOU, and you're getting the whatever you get for free.
Okay.
Because you're not giving them anything. You're not giving them a gold piece
I
for that
understand,
thing.
because it's not backed by gold
It's not
anymore.
back, right?
In God we trust,
So
yeah, I know that.
because we're given a fictitious instrument, right? Let's not worry about why we have to pay rent and why we have to pay car note and why we have to whatever. How about proclaim our nationality and then we take the steps in reclaiming all those things back as we get knowledge. Because you're not gonna get this knowledge and, you know, go to the Canadian government, yeah, we're the Moors, you need to give us Parliament back. And they're, oh yeah, sorry, you know, this Parliament's back. That's not going on. So they've gotten comfortable, right? They've gotten comfortable in their abusing of us. That we allow.
Well, it's not
Because we don't have a nationality. We want to think that black people and light skin and are actual names of people. When that's far from the truth.
The thing too is that there's words that binds you
Yeah.
directly under their jurisdiction and you're not even aware of it.
Right?
Like, you know, where you live.
So we want people to not we want people to come into this with a sense of urgency based on everything else that we see going on around us that we don't really pay attention to because our frame of mind, majority of our people's frame of mind isn't on freedom. Their frame of mind is on bondage, is on slavery. On struggle. Yeah, so you know we're the best strugglers. So we can struggle, we can get through this. We'll struggle forever.
I got this.
We got this. Like who was the slave that, you know what I mean? Like what was the reason why they're slaves? What we're the ones that pick cotton because we're the only ones that can be out there in the sun and these guys can't or whatever. The idea of struggle over there is to get to that struggle line and then go over and not struggle no more. It's not to be at the line, oh yeah, well, you know, we're just gonna chill at the line. Yeah, we're just cool struggling, right? And don't get me wrong, I understand, I hear where you're coming from, you know what I mean? And it's something where we have to slow down a little bit, you know, just pull on the reins. Pull on the reins. Because we haven't been on a horse before. And we want to, you know what I mean?
There's nothing wrong with that still.
Right, nothing's wrong with that, but if you've never been on a horse before, I wouldn't suggest.
I've experienced that part of it, so there's nothing wrong with that.
You know?
I went to the country for the first time and my cousin put me on a horse and slapped him and said, take it home. I got home, you know what I'm saying?
You got home. It was a rough ride though.
Scared as shit. Got home.
Right? So we were talking about the steps, right? So let's quickly pick that up. Actually, part of the steps done already. We're one of those. All right, so right? Judicial notice. So if we go to the court, any court, anywhere, right? You know, if you're free tomorrow, just go by the court. And what you're going to be looking for?
No, spend too much time there.
Right? What you're going to be looking for is notices. Notices. Right? Forget about all the other stuff that they're doing in there or whatever. What you're going to look for is notices. So go on the walls and just see notices. And then when you realize, right, you'll see that the notice is for the public, right? By them putting notices up for the public, or they have them in the newspaper, you'll see the big bold notice, and then it would say whatever, right? That is actually a common law practice. Notices, right? In the steps to proclaiming your nationality, the proclamation and declaration is actually a notice, right? So you're making this nationality proclamation and declaration, which is a notice, not because this seems like a good idea to do, but because you're making a political statement to people who have labeled us names that are not ours. What? Oh yeah, right? So what we were saying before you left is that when you go to court, you'll find out about notices, and that majority of the notices are for the public, right? The notices being for the public is because that's a common law practice to put somebody on notice.
Okay.
So before they foreclose, sheriff's gonna come by and
That's right.
put something on the door, right? That's a notice. When you go to waiting at the bus stop for the bus, the thing there say, oh yeah, bus is coming at this time, whatever. That's a notice, right? When you go to the court, you know, sign here. Yeah, if you need whatever, go over here. If you do it, right? Notice, right? So when you take this position of proclaiming and declaring your nationality, you're making a political statement, right? Because as the indigenous people of the land and Aboriginal, right, we have to correct our political status. Because our status, up until this point, has been dead,
And this notice that you're gonna be giving says what?
right? It's in the paper. But it's gonna be, it's the same, what we've done with the paper is that we've made this notice that anybody can make public, but from as a group,
Okay.
as a conglomerate, right? We've made this notice that everybody has this right to a nationality, right? And in having that right, that gives you the power to own property, have gold and silver as your medium of exchange,
Okay.
opposed to paper money. Proclaiming nationality connects you to a nation. That if you're not connected to a nation, then you're stateless,
In black land.
right?
Okay.
So boats, ships in the ocean with no flags get attacked by pirates.
I have a question.
True.
These are rights and you know, the stateless thing and then the nation. I wanna know who set those out.
Who said
Who put these
the
rights in
stateless and
place?
the
Who
nation?
put- Yeah, who said that, you know, you, me, whoever shall have the rights to this, that, and the next? And then my next question is, whoever put those rights or established those rights, by you choosing to exercise those rights, kind of binds you under that or their jurisdiction, you know. So, because I was watching something too, and then, you know, just going to court and saying, yeah, I got rights and da 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 da, puts you under a specific, you know, jurisdiction, which is not ours.
Right, so the concept of nation, right, comes from kingdom, and the concept of kingdom comes from empire. Right, and then in between here, there's, you know, derivatives, colony, dominion, etc. Right? This was established through the common law, which is the indigenous and aboriginal people. Right? So being that we are the indigenous and aboriginal people, right? When the indigenous and aboriginal people get occupied, right? When the indigenous and aboriginal people get occupied, their position becomes stateless if they don't make the claim.
But who said that? Who set that out? Who put those rules and protocols and guidelines?
Yeah, that's us, the indigenous aboriginal people.
So why would we need to set those guidelines if we are who we are? Shouldn't that be set out for those people?
It's set out. It's set out for us. We set it up. They implement what we set up once they get us out of our position. So once they get us out of our position, the only thing that they can do is hold our position now, since we're not in it, right? So since we don't want to be indigenous aboriginal people, we want to be black, Negro, colored, African, or whatever, the occupier, right? The occupier is going to take this position. And if they take this position, it appears that they're the ones that's setting this up.
But we're defaulting.
But it's because of our default why they even took this position. So like when we say like we already know, right? UN, right, is international bankers, right? Own, like no need for us to go to the UN for anything. Right?
That's all.
No need for us to go to the UN for anything, right? Because they're bought out, just like Congress is bought out, right? But if we do our due diligence, we would find out that the UN came out of the League of Nations. And the League of Nations is legit. But because of the occupying, the legit jurisdiction, right, gets suppressed, and the occupier now controls that jurisdiction. But because they're not the indigenous and aboriginal people, they have to reframe everything. They have to rename everything. They can't say Kanata, because that's going to give away that we're talking about indigenous. So they say Canada, right? They can't say Nile, because if they say Nile, then that gives away too much. So they say Mississippi. Right? So once the indigenous and aboriginal people come back into their self, they have to go through this process of correcting all this stuff that this colonizer has come and caused this confusion.
But what saved us is though that the prophet and those people set up that trust for us, right? They set up that. That's what we're coming back to, right?
Right? So
Yeah, but this is my issue with the rights.
go ahead.
My issue is with the rights.
Okay, for example, let's put it like this, right? Let's go like this. You're looking up in that book right there called Black's Law Dictionary,
Yeah.
right? Did that book come from a European?
Yeah.
Who taught him? When did the Europeans learn?
They learn from us.
All right, so if the Europeans learn from us, is that really Henry Black's book, or is that really Henry Black taking Moore's information and putting it in a book form and saying, yeah, yo, this is, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
Taking
But that's just
the
like
UN.
saying, you know, like you have that, you know, okay, God sent the devil, his angel, and then, you know, he did all this chaos. I mean, you know, if you kind of look at it that way, wouldn't it mean that God was also evil? Because who thought him, you know?
Right,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah, 100%. Right?
But what I'm saying
then-
is on
then
the rights issue, where I have like an issue with the rights thing is just like you reading what the rights are. There's a list of rights listed out there. You have the rights to, you know, this, that, and the next.
Yeah, but that's not coming from them. That's just rights that are acknowledged based on the common law.
Yeah, but we're indigenous, man. Nobody can tell me what the heck my rights are, man. You know?
If our state is stateless, right? We better hope somebody stands up and says something on our behalf, because we can't, because we're dead status.
Yeah, but you're going to court, right? For instance, and then you go in there talking about rights and all of that, and the judge saying, yeah, you got rights, but he occupies, you know, basically that right. You know, you understand what I'm saying?
Right,
Yeah.
and as an occupier, right, we can't expect them,
To fight for you.
we can't expect them to accept our offer of we have this right, because they're an occupier.
Yes,
So
you
we're
go
not
in
talk-
there
we're
and
not
you say,
talking
no,
about-
I got no rights then.
We're not talking about like,
So you're saying you have to fight for your rights, that's what you're saying?
No, but I
No.
also, but I think
Go in
that
there
also
and
what
say,
you guys
"I
are,
got no rights."
what you guys are also missing is that they've also set up a
It's your
system.
jurisdiction.
They've set up a system that puts you out of that, and puts them in control.
Right.
Right, so ultimately you have to, and that's admiralty law, so
Right.
you have to battle that first, right? So initially, when you go in there as an indigenous person,
Talking about, you know, that, yeah.
when you go in there as an indigenous person, you're not even recognized under that. So initially, you have a problem right there, and they're not even gonna recognize that. So that's half the battle, right? Or that's 3/4 of the battle. And basically what happens is your law supersedes their law. So ultimately, they can't even deal with you. So when you go there and you're like in this position of being lower than them, they ultimately don't even have any rights over you. But they can't tell you that.
Sorry.
Huh?
I gotta read this. I'm in the rights here, and this is what it says, alright? For rights. Rights may be described as a perfect or imperfect according as their actions or scope is clear, settled, and determinate, or is vague and unfixed. Now watch this. Rights are also either in personam or in rem. A right in personam is one which imposes an obligation or a definite person on a definite person. So I don't know if y'all just like overstood this. A
Yeah,
right
what
in rem
about-
is one which imposes an obligation on persons generally. So, you know,
but
the
the
person
key,
who has the
Yeah,
right
maintenance-
has the right to have rights over you.
but how do they have, the person who's imposing the rights, right? How do they have that power? Because
You give it up?
it says clearly person, which is a corporation. So technically, but now if we said birthrights instead of just rights, this implies something totally different. And that's why it doesn't say birthrights in there, it's gonna say
It
rights.
says rights. But that's what I'm saying. You can't go walk in there. I have rights, and you know the Constitution says blah blah blah. You know.
The only way you can do that is
Yeah, if you're nationalized, and
is
you
if
know.
Well, you have to
one,
define
if
your
you're-
rights
If you're
that you
national,
have.
Yeah.
right? But you have to be the one to say what your right is.
Yeah, you have to define it.
Right? Remember, all the UN declarations of rights and all that stuff, all those things are only acknowledging pre-existing rights. They're not giving rights. Because it says everybody has the right to, doesn't mean that they're giving that right.
That would be
It
privilege.
just means that they're acknowledging. Just like with the proclamations. Right? They're not saying in the proclamations that we say that the Moorish Americans are, and the Moorish Americans this and the Moorish Americans, they're just acknowledging that, well, you know what, there's these people called Moorish American, and this is what we find out about them. Brrr, sign. There's Aboriginal and Indigenous people in the world, and this is what we found out about them, and then they list it all down. Just so that nobody's confused. Because the whole entire world right now is waiting for Negro, black, colored people to do this. The whole world's waiting. Right? When we see so-called government shutdown. Right? Government shutdown. Say that again?
Which already happened.
Right? So government shutdown, which already happened.
That's just something that's not.
Right? Which already happened. How old are you?
10.
Right? So 10-year-old. A 10-year-old knows that the government shutdown happened already. And then there's all these people, you know, in limbo, waiting just to see, okay, so
What's the next move?
what's the next move? What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? Do we have to pay taxes still? Do we have to whatever? Could we
You
do
still have
this?
to pay the taxes.
Right? You know, and what does that tell you? If the government shut down and then you still have to pay taxes, then that means that there's no connection between the government and the people who save taxes. That they're two separate entities. If the government shut down and you still have to pay taxes.
And they still get paid.
And then that's the argument, or that's the argument for CRA, IRS, or whatever. Who are you guys? Who are you guys? What's your authority? If you're saying that you have the authority to tax, right? But the government shut down, who are you guys? But don't think that you can ask that question if you're Negro, black, colored, or African, or whatever. Because stateless people can't make any arguments at law. And if you don't know your rights, you don't have any.
Only the educated are free.
Right?
Do we not have the right to do anything we want so long as it doesn't interfere with somebody else?
That's right.
Right.
Right? And then once that interference happens, there's a process in
Once
place
it's
to
done,
resolve who has the right of way,
Unless
right?
it causes harm or loss, yeah.
Right. Right. But
they're
again,
saying, they're stepping in every time you do something. Oh, no. You just imposed on me.
yeah, because
And it's up
they're
for us
trying
now
to
to
keep
say, no.
they're trying to keep everybody here,
Yeah.
stateless, through voluntary consent. So if I'm slave master, right? I'm slave master and you're trying to be free, right? Your position with me is to prove that I'm this. My position with you is to keep you here, right? By any means necessary. I'll do whatever I have to do to keep you here. I got this guy right over here who's next to you, you know, if this is a court session or whatever, he's right next to you with the gun. And he's got the handcuffs and you just click, just clicking handcuffs. Click, while you're trying to talk and do whatever it is that you're doing. Right? You just but you're not paying attention. You know what I mean? You're not really, because you're focused on you know, you got your case in front of you or whatever, and this guy's just there, just in the background. Just right? And then you got, the room is, you know, 30 degrees below zero, right? And you're the only one up in there with red fingers or whatever, and everybody else is up in there chilling like this is normal, right? Minus 30 inside. You're looking at red fingers. It's time for you to talk, teeth are chattering and all that in the court, right? They'll do whatever it is to keep you stateless, to keep you here. But if you know, right, which comes back to the same thing I was saying from the beginning, right? The only way you know is by studying. And if you study, no matter what these guys do, no matter what they do, you know that they're a fraud. And you're gonna stand up for the fact that you know that they're a fraud because they're a fraud. Right? Why am I gonna legitimize them? What? Like for example, there was a brother on one of the blog talk shows a week ago, 2 weeks ago or something, right? He was dealing with child support or something like that, right? And he pushed this. So you know what? I have a nationality, whatever, I give papers or whatever. They took him out the court, put him in the hole. For child support, like $300 or something, not even nothing crazy, right? Put him in the hole for like a week or something, right? Came out the hole, went to the court, same thing, bam, bam, put him in the hole again. The hole, just him, only. Him in a box, by himself, for a week or whatever, a month. Court came up again, and in the hole again. They put him in the hole until they realize that he's not breaking.
Let me know what it is.
So let's just get him out of here and let's go find somebody else to go bother. You know? Because that was his journey in this.
That was his what?
That was his journey.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what he had to go through. That's not across the board, but that's where people get skeptical about this because they look at one person's situation and think, oh man, that could happen to me, when it might not go like that. You know what I mean? Just like Brother Amari. You know, we find out about reserving our rights, right? So whatever we do, we just reserve our rights. You know what I mean? And then goes, gets a ticket. So, you know, well, since I'm indigenous, aboriginal, you know, nationality and all that, and ticket means that they're trying to make me stateless, I'm gonna fight this. So, you know, check off the bag, you know, go to court, fight it. Go to court, okay, ladies at the desk, okay, well, sign here. Sign all rights reserved. No, you can't do that. You have to sign it again. Sign all rights reserved. Lady canceled the ticket right there. The lady at the window canceled the ticket.
Yeah, because she has a knowledge.
But I thought only police are supposed to do that.
But she has a knowledge. It goes back to only the educated are free.
No. Once we know that everything that we do is going to be from a different perspective. But don't be deterred because you know, like, you know, we can read something in Black's Law Dictionary and say, you know, yeah, in personam, you know, it imposes rights or whatever. Don't think that because they attack you means that you're wrong.
It's just part of the game.
That's just part of their front because they got to make this look real good. Because people are waking up. People are waking up right now.
Especially when there's a court audience.
Right, yeah, especially if there's an audience. A majority of Moors, like there was a brother that was dealing with same thing, dealing with CAS, right? Back in the day, Brother Kush, right? And he had one court session where we were there from 9 to 4. We were at the court from 9 to 4, right? And their case kept getting pushed back on the day. Oh yeah, you okay? Yeah, we'll see you after. Anybody else somewhere? Yeah, call them all up. Oh yeah, you. Yeah, we'll see you later. All right, lunchtime. Everybody goes for lunch. Comes back from lunch. All right, that's. Oh, sorry, no, we'll see you later. We'll see you later. Right? 5 to 4, call them up. Court's closed 4 o'clock. 5 to 4, call them up. Oh yeah, come back next year or whatever. Bye. Gone. And you're just now you're you're like, well, okay, what just happened? We really sat here all day just so that they can tell us come back next year.
It happens.
Right?
No, but isn't there somewhere, I read somewhere too that basically they're entitled to do whatever they can to mess you up too, right?
Have to, because they're occupier. They're colonizers.
No, but they're allowed to lie, to do all that kind of stuff, just to.
Well, I mean, they're
not lie, but I remember saying that
they're allowed to, but they're only allowed to based on us being stateless.
Right.
Once we're stateless, they can do anything that they want to make sure that everything goes according to their plan.
But it's good
Their
to know,
plan.
it's good to know their legal stuff, because then you can hold them to their stuff.
Right, and that's why. So people who have, if you have something,
there's two.
If you have something,
Studying is across the board in my case, so.
right? Like everybody has some issue with some collection agent calling them for something, whether it's TELUS bill 50 years ago that is $5. Clear net, right? Or yeah, right. You know what I mean? Credit card, whatever, right? As soon as you see this, right? Synonyms have to come to your mind, right? Extortionist, right? Because if they're gonna call you 6 a.m. in the morning until you pay, right? That's extortion. That's extortion, right?
Well, actually, just for information here, I was in a situation where some people bought my debt, and I went to court with them. And I showed the judge I have no agreement with these people, and the judge threw it out.
Yeah,
I have no agreement with them.
because
Because my contract had nothing with their name on it.
Yeah.
but contract is what makes
Law.
the law in stateless societies. Right? So they have no law. So when they say Constitution Act of Canada, and then they say in the preamble, yeah, we follow the rule of law and whatever, all that, right? But an act, right? An act is fraud. An act is fake. No different than an actor, right? The guy whose name's in the credits isn't the guy in the movie. He's playing a role, playing a position, right? So in stateless societies, or societies that have been colonized or taken over or whatever, right? The occupiers have to use contracts, get the people to agree to the contracts, and then that's how they decide, okay, well, in this contract it says, you know, you shall not whatever, right? When you violate that part, we have a whatever code, right, attached to this contract that we're gonna hold you to, right? So you have the license, and then you have the highway traffic, whatever. You have the taxes, and then you have the income tax act. You have the whatever, and then you have the corresponding fraud that they're gonna use to hold the people to these contracts. And that's the $1 million question. The $1 million question is, show me the contract.
I had no dealings with them.
If you're saying that you bought this debt from these people who I have a contract with, then they're supposed to give you the contract. Like, why wouldn't they give you the contract for you?
They don't.
And they don't. But why don't they? Because they're running a fraud. Because they're running a fraud. We can say they don't because, you know, it was sold 4 times before that.
No, the Freedom of Information Act prohibits them from giving you personal information.
Remember, Freedom of Information.
Nah. You got me on that, okay.
Right? You know, even though, yeah, right? That's really how they get the info, right? You know, but you know, it's like when they say right? Right? When they say that, they're talking about fraud. Because if this is on, right? But then this is, right? Like what? Why did they just say AL for Alberta? Like they say ON for Ontario. Why did they say AB? Right? Yeah, because they're running a fraud. So just like brother said, anything goes in fraud. They call you black people, light-skinned people, dark-skinned people, light-skinned black people, right? But you never hear Chinese or yellow people. You never hear Hindus, brown people, red people, and all that. You don't hear that when referring to them, and you could know that from the news when criminal activity happens. When criminal activity happens between quote unquote Asians, it's Asians, and Chinese, and whatever. It's not colors of people or how these people look. Their appearance is how we're gonna identify them. You know, a majority of the time, you know, like this is across the board because they got NY, right? That was Florida again.
NFL.
Yeah, right? UTC,
PA, Pennsylvania.
right? Because they're running a fraud. So what we have to do is, if we're gonna get ourselves, because this means stateless. So to get ourselves out of stateless status, all we gotta do is spell everything out. And don't abbreviate anything when we're disseminating, corresponding. Don't abbreviate. Even when you deal with them and they send you something in abbreviation, reply to them with it spelled out. And that sets a whole different tone. But again, you can't be spelling stuff out or whatever if you don't have nationality.
Black people have no rights.
Right? Exactly. No. And not only do black people have no rights, but they have no rights that no white man is bound to respect. According to the Dred Scott case. And you can check that one out, just to show you how the status of black is really dead. Dred Scott. Right? And the Dred Scott case is quickly Asiatic that was supposedly free slave that went to another state, and then when he went to the other state, he got picked up in the other state, and his argument was, well, I'm in a free state, so you can't put me in slavery. And the court's position was plaintiff in error, because your name's Scott, you're talking about you're free. How are you free and your name is a European name?
So there's steps of procedures that you have to do to
Right,
get
to correct, right? So there's Sister Art right now with the turban on. Right now she has a case right now, right? She has a case right now where the process, right? The process is done through stuff that she's sending into the court for her case, right? Which should be standard. If you have something in the court that you're dealing with, if it's in its inception, if it's at the beginning, then you can handle it this way. If you already went in there already and agreed that, made a plea and you're not guilty or whatever like that, they can find you in contempt later if you try to pull this after everything started. Right? That's why we tell people that if you're gonna be dealing with this, no. So that's really the only protection that you really have. The only protection you really have is knowing that they're in error. Right? That's the only protection that you have. You know what I mean? As well, when we talk about the process, there's in an occupied system, occupier has to leave a window for the people to get out of being occupied. Right? They have to leave a window. They can't just lock down. As they martial law and military's coming to your door knocking or whatever like that. Right? Yeah, military is coming to your door knocking because they're really the only jurisdiction. Police don't have no jurisdiction. They're private security guards. So if it really goes down, expect military. And then we know individuals who are ex-military, ex-Desert Storm, what was that? Ex-military, right? And they say that the military's position is deal with these people first. People who have nationalities. Those are the people that you have an obligation to. The stateless people, whatever. You can deal with them later. Majority of them end up getting rounded up, get to the back, shot in the head, and be done with them. Because they have no standing at law. There's no need to to administer to them, remedy. Right? And we can see the power of this when you bring it up in your dealings with people. And you bring up nationality. What's your nationality? Everybody's gonna look at you. Like, why are you asking me that? Right? Because as Aboriginal and Indigenous people, we have a right to know.
Leads to what's your background.
Right? We have a right to know. And you have a right to tell us when we ask. Especially if you're holding some occupier's seat, colonizer's seat, and trying to make it seem like you're really the authority and we're subordinate. That's why you're inflicting all this stuff on us. When we have a right to ask them. Even just on the corner, officer comes in here right now. What's your nationality? Before you even say anything, before you ask anybody in here for ID, we want to see yours. And we demand to see yours.
I had a sister approach an officer who was just commenting or maybe just abusing someone else, but she got on his not wearing his full uniform. And you know, if you're not in full uniform, you have no means to practice your job or enforce anything if you're not wearing it.
Education is key.
Yeah.
Didn't have his hand up.
If a state trooper stop you and you don't have his uniform on, go out the window.
Or full,
Yeah. Right?
Wow.
Just like anybody else.
Only to educate the free.
Right? Before the cashier goes on the floor, you know, you gotta have a little McDonald's hat or whatever, a little shirt, you know what I mean? The little tie, you know what I'm saying? Before she can even, because as soon as she goes out there without her stuff or whatever, manager's like, yo, you better go get your stuff. You know, you're just gonna be talking to our customers that are number one,
List of
right?
things regarding certain aspects of things. Like say, property or taxes.
I wish there was just a list.
And how to handle it.
What was that one?
No, my question to her was that is there like a list of different things, you know, situation comes up and you look at section 4, paragraph 2 and it will guide you on how to deal with it.
Cool, boom.
No, well, yeah. You know,
Or just case studies.
Yeah, case
That
studies.
easy.
Just case studies.
A how-to online.
There you go.
Hey, who is it?
The Nationality for Dummies book.
Where's
That one might sell.
Where's that?
That one might sell.
I think you have a bestseller on your hand right there.
They're gonna make Oprah's book list with that one.
Yeah, well, the main
Come
thing is
speak,
not,
you know?
yeah.
Yo.
The main thing is know thyself.
Know thyself.
That's the main thing. Once you know
And again,
thyself.
it's not,
No, listen, I strongly believe we only educate the free, regardless of what you're doing. Exactly. You know, I mean,
Right.
we'll be in the court with 7 tickets. Let's put them out. Only educate the free.
right? But also too, remember, literacy is also educated.
Okay, break that one down.
Not knowing how to be educated is because of education. Because education educate means to take out. The word educate means to take out. But majority of people who got educated got stuff put in.
Okay, I see what you mean.
So are they really educated or are they taught to be illiterate?
That's
Taught to
profound
think,
right there.
yeah, taught to think that when someone says this person, they mean human being,
But as you said,
living entity, right?
I can't. LLD is a personal, so
Right.
corporation.
A person is a corporation.
Same rights.
Yeah, same rights. as the human living entity, right? And if we go to the court session, right? Corporation is all caps. So if we go to the court session and they say Queen versus John, they really mean John. And John's going in there thinking that, well, yeah, you know, hi John, come to the front. Okay, yeah, that's me. You know, and he goes up to the front. Say your name for the record. Yeah, my name is John. But on the paper, it's written like this. Which means that he's a corporation, right? And if he's a corporation, then just like you say, corporate rights apply to him.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Corporate.
Right? And if that's your position in the court, then you got fine, license suspended, you can't get your plates because before you pay this thing or whatever, when you could have easily made the claim that you're a natural person, not corporate person, right?
And how do you go about doing that?
Writs or written documents.
Okay.
Or paper, which is public record.
Oh, okay.
Which you now, being that you have that in your possession, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's yours. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So being that's in your possession, and that talks about proclamations and authority and natural person versus corporate person, etc. You could use that as your guideline, you know, the steps, whatever, to get yourself familiarized with where we're going with all this stuff that we wrote down, erased, wrote down, erased, that people think is, oh my gosh, this is so, when it's not that heavy. We're not Negro, black, colored, we're Moors. Like that's how simple it is. All the other stuff comes with your studies, right? Right, like just like Brother Justice, right? That average person who just is European, but he has knowledge of Moorish history and European history and all the other stuff. So he can take the position of, well, I'm European and leave it at that, or he can take the position of, I'm European but I'm amalgamated. I'm not just European only, because look at my dark eyes, look at my dark hair. When they say European, you're talking about blue-eyed, blonde-haired guy. If they say European, in the context of white man, that's who we're referring to. The blue-eyed, blonde-haired guy. If they're not blue-eyed, blonde hair, then they got Moorish blood in them, or black blood. And then in the slave times, they said, one drop black blood makes you a nigger. So don't even come around trying to, you know, like Abraham Lincoln or whatever, you know what I mean? I'm the president of, you know, and talking all your whatever when you're a brother. And we don't like your kind around here. So why are you trying to get down with the government and all that when we don't care about you? You got one drop. Right? So it's about annoying. Anybody could get down with this. Anybody can get down with this.
So you need to write a book.
Once they have knowledge.
For idiots.
Yeah. Maybe we do. Maybe we do. Because I know there ain't one out there.
I'm not being serious.
No, for real. I'm being serious with you too. There isn't one out there. You know what I mean? Right? Like for real. Because if a people know that their name came from slave master, they know that their name came from slave master, and they're not doing nothing to correct that, Like they're not taking any steps to correct that. When they know, you ask them, how you got that name? Oh, yeah, from my grandmother. Where'd she get it? From her grandmother. Where'd she get it? From her grandfather, whatever. Where'd they get it? When they were slaves to these guys. Okay, so.
Change it.
You want to still run?
I'm gonna run with it.
You're gonna run with that, right? No, and if when you run with it, don't be mad when they got the horses and they got the noose, they're coming after you. Because we're in error by not correcting what we know. It's like we know that there's worms in pork. Know that. Everybody had the grade 8, put the Coke or whatever, vinegar on the pork, you cover it, come back tomorrow, and there's worms. Everybody knows that.
Still tastes good though.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Nah, still not.
That's why. That's why we're violated. That's why we're violated. Right? The same way that you said that, it's the same thing like, well, I'm black. So I could be black. You know, it's cool to be black. I'm alright to be black. Everyone is black. This is black. That.
Right.
Yeah.
You're an error.
No, I said that in regarding to this is like a Pandora's box you open, right? I mean, I'm gonna read this and stuff, but
Right.
it's like Pandora's
No,
box.
for
You can't
sure.
close it.
No, you can't. You can't. And how Brother Taj says it, you can't close it because somebody already took off the hinges through the cover of it. so there's no closing anything right now. Right?
Well, and the second thing is too, would you want to close it at this point? Now that you know,
Yeah.
now that you know.
No, I don't dispute what you're saying because
I'm just saying at this-
that's really it. Is there any turning back after this?
Well, that's the whole
That's the
point.
question.
And at a point, lots of times I, in this journey too, thought to myself, I wish I hadn't been there. But once you do know, you can't go back. Or it's not that you can't go back. You don't. There's no. Once your eyes are open,
Do you wanna go back?
you see all the injustices everywhere because you've also experienced them. And then you know now it explains why this is going on. Now it explains everything, right?
So
Before you.
I totally agree with what you're saying because I mean I'm reflecting as you're speaking. I'm reflecting on certain things that, like my mentor teaches me. I have a mentor,
Right.
and certain things he teaches me going back 13 years ago.
Right.
You know, I'm able to see certain things. He's like,
Right.
how could I be doing this?
You know what it is too? It's weird. It's a level of awareness, right? You've now transcended that level. You're now at the next level, right? So now you're actively taking the choice to go back to that level at
Are
this
you
point.
gonna play the ostrich game and stick your head in the sand?
Yeah.
Well, that works for you, but unfortunately, you can still get killed, right?
Exactly. The rest of you is outside, right?
That's right.
Or somebody do something to you because your ass is in there.
And that might not taste
And
good.
no ostrich.
No,
ostriches.
No oxygen over here.
No, I appreciate this information actually because my son had mentioned it to me. He goes, listen, I don't know anything about it, but what I know I'm excited about, and you know, he pointed me to some websites and stuff like that. The political aspect of it, to be honest with you, I really don't care.
Yeah.
You know, what you're telling me regarding this and this and this changes everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, for me, I grew up in New York. I grew up in the Bronx.
Word up.
And,
There too.
you know, and you always see these guys, the Black Panther go around and stuff like that, whatever it is. But for me, it was always political for them.
Right. Right.
You know, what are you doing, as you said before, I'll just twist it around. What are you doing for your own? And that's really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
You know, and if this can change someone's life, because it changes the way you think,
Yeah.
how you look at people. Because for me, you know, my son knows there's certain conversations I don't have with people.
Right. Right.
I don't. It's a waste of time. It's futile.
Right. Exactly.
You know, and I always said, you know, the knowledge you have cannot not supersede the income you make.
Yeah.
So you can't have $1 million and don't have certain words in your vocabulary.
Right.
It won't last.
Yeah.
So by having certain things that you put out there, you know, showing me certain things that, you know, I'm gonna go look it up because,
Yeah.
I mean, for myself, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a hustler.
Right.
You know, my mom says I'm just an educated hustler, but I'm a hustler.
Yeah.
You know, and if there's different ways of doing things, you know, anybody that knows me know that I'm very progressive. So I'm definitely gonna look up into this, and you really should look up at that. You know, Morris for idiots.
Yeah.
It's coming.
I hear you. Come on.
Only like black bookstores you can put those things in.
Yeah, that's gonna have to be the black, but you know, they might not let it in though. But
Yeah, but you know, I mean, once something is on the web, you can't take it down.
yeah.
You know. So.
Yeah, man. Also too, this is where it's going. Like for example, like when we talked about this, my mom brought this to my attention, right?
Because she's aware.
Because she's aware. Because I put her on, right? They're not gonna. I mean, they're only gonna go so far with it.
That's right.
But the fact that she can bring that up,
she's aware.
Something's going off over there. You know what I mean? Something's going on, right? The fact that you can come here. Like there's a lot of people that come through these doors right here, right?
Especially someone bringing in their father.
Yeah, like there's a lot of people that come through and bring through different people or whatever. And we've had sons like 15, 16, whatever, bring their fathers, parents in to this, right? Because that's just the generations that we're dealing with right now are looking for that tangible thing to change.
Sure.
Right? They're not buying the.
Because it don't make sense.
Right?
It don't make
That's
sense.
not buying that. They want something right now. Like what right now? I need $5 million right now. What can I do?
Well, it's the same thing. I mean, somebody invited me to a church, right?
Yeah.
And the pastor's saying, well, if you believe in God right now, come right now and whatever he's trying to, doing his pitch.
Right.
He's got to do his job, right?
Yeah.
So,
I get that check.
at the end of it.
You believe in God right now.
Right now.
Yeah, right now. So at the end of it, he says to me, well, why didn't I come up and stuff like that, whatever it is. And I said to him, your truth is your truth.
Yeah.
Mine is mine.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's okay for you to because you're telling, okay, you're a congregation and some people are unemployed.
Yeah.
You don't give a rat's ass how they're making the money. Yeah. Seriously, you just want them to be able to put something in the congregation. So you're telling, I told him, the statement you're making to me is that you want your milk and honey right now.
Yeah.
And I think you're a well-educated person, so you must know something about the milk and honey right now.
Yeah.
I want my shit right now too.
And how educated he is?
He's fairly educated.
Majority of those guys are Masons.
Yeah, he's fairly educated.
So
he knows. He's not
degree. Yeah, but the degree of knowledge that they have is what we put on the board.
It's only 30.
We're not talking about they went to Bible school, religion, whatever.
No. That's just how they do your sales.
We're talking about everything that we talked about.
Yeah, most of them are familiar with it. Yeah.
From the fraud of government to taxes to status to all that, they know that. But like you're saying, if they're telling it to the congregation, it's for the congregation to have them leave with fat pockets. And that's it.
Only the educated free.
Right, because church means circle. So church means circle. How come all these guys have a square building? Church means circle.
But they got good cars.
Right? And then so they got good cars, right? And then when you check right?
Don't forget they got a new TV show too.
Right? They got their stuff, They're gonna have their little stuff on there, right? They're gonna have their decal on the car.
My grandfather had that.
That's in the front of the church. Not the parking lot way down there, The parking lot right at the door, reserved, right? With the lines, and then everybody down there has no lines. Everybody's parking, slamming people's door and getting out or whatever. And then these guys have like dump truck space to go park.
Go through the sidewalk.
Right? You know? So it's the appearance of it is that it's a lot, but it's real simple once you're studying. Because when you study, things are just, you know, just like you're saying, you're going back in your mind like, damn, yeah, you know, things will make sense, right? You know, loose ends will be tied when you start getting with this information, right? Because when we say that we study, when we say we study moral science, right? That means world information. Not just, you know, we're Moors and we have this information in this temple here. We're talking about, we pull somebody out the street in here, put down some of this stuff and they'll know what it is. But they've become citizens of a corporation, and being that they're citizens of a corporation, they can't tell certain stuff to the indigenous people. Because if they do, they gotta go back to where they come from. And that's just what it is. It's nothing to somebody gonna see this on YouTube and then want to debate me. Well, they are. I know a guy from whatever, and he's nothing to do with that, right? The reality of it is that the Aboriginal and Indigenous people have been labeled something else, and now it's time for them to take their place so that things could change around here. Because whether Negro, black, colored people get on this information or not, things are still changing out there around them, just like they have been, and that's just the pattern.
I think another thing too to remember, U.S is what is it? A slave corporation for profit, isn't it?
Right.
So that's what they do. They're in here. They're here doing business in the business of slavery. So once you start to look at that from that perspective, it can change the way you start operating with them, because it's no longer thinking about them as if they got some benevolent attitude towards you, as if this is just sort of messed up because you guys don't know your stuff. No, this is the business that they're in.
Yeah, the first time I heard that actually was George Jr. Bush. He said, U.S. is open for business.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And just last week,
said Canada said open for business.
Just last week, Canada's open for business.
Okay.
Right?
Cooperation.
What is the the sign?
Oh, that's
Mason
just
sign.
the Masonic.
My grandpa has on his Cadillac.
Right now?
There you go.
He passed away, but yeah, when he passed the Cadillac down, it was on. It wasn't a stick. It was kind of like in bed,
Yeah, like
and
a-
it's
yeah.
It's like you're saying a plaque or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? So that just means right? Mother and son. And then the reason why they have to, if you go look at the you got somebody up there with a fez on, that's a Mason.
Down here.
Right behind you, right there, Mystic Order thing, George Washington Museum.
Hold that guy up right there. Right? So the Mystic Order of the Veiled Prophets of the Enchanted Realm, that's just a group of Masons. Right? Yeah, right? That's just a group of Masons,
That's
right?
a wordful.
And their particular study is moral science. Everything that we're talking about, they know. Right? And their job is to keep our people out of that knowingness.
Well, you can see there on the other plaque there, it says the same sign is right there, and it says law.
Right.
Which really just reflects, it's just the symbology behind, sorry, I don't know.
That's all good.
symbology behind the science.
Right.
Which is the square is supposed to mean keeping everything in order, and the compass is to encircle to encircle all of your the things that your passions.
Yeah.
So that's what it is. It just means that your grandfather was of a certain degree of knowledge.
Degree of knowledge. Right,
That's what it
or a
meant.
certain degree of knowledge, or certain degree of knowledge, or Illuminati, which isn't, cult of guys,
And here's another
Worshipping
thing that we
all
have
and
up
all
here,
that
which
type of
shows
stuff.
the pyramid of
knowledge.
where the knowledge is, right?
Right.
And where the Masons would be on that level, right? Because there were guys who were even higher than that.
And then really, there's supposed to be a 7 in here,
Right.
right? Because G is the 7th letter, and
So
the
it's
7
just-
is the number of the Morse.
It's just the symbology behind it, right? So they've just
So-
coded it so you won't pick up on it.
And then really, that's really the Star of David.
Which is right there, which is right there again.
Which is the next
Which is the next symbol right there.
Am, right?
Right? And which means as above, so below.
Right? So, your grandfather really studying Judaism, which is really more science, not, Judaism and the curly, and the fur hat, Bathurst and all
Which was
Talk about the diamond.
Oliver,
which was our stuff too, right?
Yeah, right, which is all our stuff, right? And they know what's up. So it's an appearance, and then even with this symbol, right? You just get this out right here. Then you have circle 7, which is on the Quran right there. Right? But if they can, they'll put a line here, they'll put a line here, they'll put a line here.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Put a G in here, or maybe a 7.
We'll never know.
Right, or just like how they do this, Yeah, there's the horns and the ears. That's the Baphomet. There's the devil worshippers in here or whatever. And, no, we're not done with none of that. It's just a star, just flipped another way. It's all it is. It's not what people think it is.
Well, and also what you realize too is the reason why they do that is to send you off the knowledge.
Right, to get you to say, oh, that's devilish, I don't want nothing to do with
That's
that.
right.
I'm going to the cross.
That's exactly that's exactly what it is.
You know what I mean? Right? When the cross is like the most devilish stuff, because they had dude nailed onto it, like, you know what I mean? In his palm and in his foot, stabbing him in the ribs and all that stuff. Like, that's more devilish than this. But if the people, going back to the theme, if the people don't know, you'll get taken advantage of if you don't know. And it's not, all this isn't far-fetched, right? If you're somebody if you have a brain in your head and you have common sense, all this is gonna make sense if you study it. Like supreme sense. Makes sense that you give up everything that you used to do. It's because you know how much in violation you were doing opposite of all this. That we get collection agent call, right? Send a letter, we get the letter off. Dealing with these guys. But then they call and you have a phone conversation. Well, you just threw the letter out. Like, you just got the letter and said, I know you guys, I'm not gonna answer this, and threw it away. Then they call and then you answer, yeah, can I speak to so-and-so? Who's this? Well, this is so-and-so from a collection agency or whatever. Well, why are you calling me? I told you guys not to call me at this time and you guys are violating or whatever.
No, just send them a cease and desist letter.
Right? Notice.
Yeah.
Or written document. So all these corporate frauds that come at us, Our job is to deal with them in writing only. No conversations with these people. Because more than likely, you're gonna be dealing with the cashier for your complaint, not the owner. And once you deal with the cashier, then tell you anything.
Well,
The
they don't
hair
have any
my
rights
food.
anyway, right?
Huh?
They don't have any rights. The cashier don't have any
Yeah,
rights.
cashier does, right?
Yeah.
So if you're gonna go to somebody who doesn't have rights, to go complain to them about your rights that are violated.
They have no clue what you're talking about.
No idea what you're
Yeah.
talking about. Why? Because they're specifically put there to be a gatekeeper.
Mhm.
To get you to chase your tail, and they'll just stand there watch you chase your tail. Gotta chase
Yeah, but they don't know any better.
it. Right?
So,
That's why they're put there.
exactly.
Right?
And
Put there for a
they're
reason.
deliberately kept ignorant, right?
Right.
That's why they're put there.
Put there for a reason. Specific. What's time? What's time check?
7:15, 7:20.
All right, there you go. So that's about it. If there's any more questions or anything like that? We need to touch on? Or
Staying after, I probably leave. Sleeping here tonight.
Anything for the new people? If anybody has anything to just impart with regard to
Moors. It's not a color. Am I
no.
right? So how would you if you tell someone, when somebody asks me what am I, they'd be like, oh, what's your background? Well, what do you mean what's my background? Like, what's my nationality?
That's my background.
Say, I don't have background,
Picture or something?
Screensaver.
What's your background?
Screensaver. My background is, ocean.
Right now, your background is flags.
Yeah, you just say more.
Okay, so how do you explain it to somebody who doesn't look like me and they want to know? Somebody asks me, like, am I Moor?
Yeah. Trust me, when you tell them, like, look, next to the black box,
Moro, not Filipino.
Moro, not Filipino.
How do they know?
That's people in the Philippines that call themselves Moros.
Not Filipino.
And they don't want to be called Filipino. There's Filipino right there, just tell you. Back it up. Right? Right? This came from Germany. Brother brought this back from Germany. Brother who lives in Germany brought this. Because it says more on there. Just so we can have something from Germany that says more for when people, like when you ask that question. So what do we call ourselves? How are they gonna know? So everybody knows that we're Moors. Even in the German language. So this is not English. This is German language. M-O-H-R.
No, how do I explain somebody who wants to know if they're Moor?
Oh, they're Moor. If they're dark skinned,
If they've got any pigment in their skin, they're more.
if they're dark skinned, they're Moor.
But the problem is, I think like your father said, it's going to be, for you to start to get into conversations like this, at this level, especially due to the training and the education, that kind of stuff, it's going to be somewhat of a challenge.
Yeah.
That's why you have to come here, to be able to then back it up, because then what you can explain to them is this whole continent is Moors, and even over in Europe, that's where we were before that.
If you
So-
look at Wikipedia, you'll see a lot of, when you type in Moors, you'll see a lot of European Moors.
Right.
All over the ages,
Right.
there were Moors, there were
They're called Berbers and Turks and everything else, but
Everything.
So what you could say, I guess, as a simple thing, is just say that you guys were indigenous aboriginal to this land before anyone was here, and your name was changed due to colonization. That would be the simple. But that's not going to be that simple.
So that even if they came from,
Well, a good answer actually is that
That was a good answer.
if I say I'm Moor,
All right,
and you said you're from wherever it is,
right, Jamaica.
you said, well, how do I know that I'm Moor?
Right,
Well, how do you know that you're from where you're from?
that would be a good answer
right?
too.
Yeah. And
But what you have to
So it's
understand-
like trying to explain a toothache to somebody.
But this is what he was saying. This is what he was saying to you before, which I think is very.
So now you're talking about that right now.
What he was saying was very important to what he said before. A lot of this is reversing the training and the false education that you
Yeah,
got.
yeah.
That's why when you said to yourself, how can you get through that? All of this, for me, it's about deconstructing yourself and building yourself back, or opening back up to your true self.
Yeah, get to re-educate
Right.
yourself, bro.
Like for
I don't
example,
disagree.
are we or am I more or whatever the case is, right? Simple thing, just like me and Amari were talking about when you came in, right? Your beard like that is called Moore's beard.
Yeah.
That's what it's called.
Oh, nice.
Wait, back it up.
He just blew his head up about this thing.
All right, let's blow up your head even more. Don't call yourself nice.
It means you're foolish.
You're foolish.
Okay.
Right?
Look it up though, but this.
Well,
Nice
but they have to get the right dictionaries,
Just
right?
block
The
that
Yeah, that's
shit
what I
out.
wanted to ask. When you were saying this means this means that, how do I look that up? How do I?
So you're gonna get
Black's Law Dictionary.
unabridged dictionary. Etymology dictionary. Law dictionary.
Be specific with the law dictionary because
Oh yeah.
if you get a Canadian law dictionary, you ain't going nowhere. So you have to get Black's Law or Bouvier's Law dictionaries.
And these are sold where?
You can get them on
You
eBay.
can only get them online nowadays,
Yeah,
right? That's the other
you-
thing too, they've changed, like the new dictionaries you have don't have this, right? And that's part of the whole changing of the stuffs, right? Because then you're identifying yourself, it's like spells, you go to look for a word, and it's not the true meaning of the word, they've changed the word, they've altered the word. It's the same with the education, they've altered it.
Right, so unabridged dictionary, right? Which majority of dictionaries now are abridged. So like you get dictionaries like these, paperback, you get at Kohl's and these places.
No good.
You don't want these.
So
It's a waste of time.
that's
Right? You don't want those. You want dictionaries that have hardcover, you know, that are thick like this or thicker. You know what I mean?
and at least 60 years old.
At least 60.
At least 60
Yeah,
years
for the
old.
unabridged dictionaries, you're looking at a copyright 1930 plus.
Really?
And you can get them because they're out there.
Yeah.
You know, people have them. You know, etymology dictionary, same thing as the unabridged.
No, I think well I know. We have all that stuff from my grandfather.
Yeah,
He has his whole wall was
yeah.
all that stuff.
You better go.
You better go right now.
Face and start like looking for those secret doors. He has some books. Trust me on that. Man. You got some books, man.
And encyclopedias also.
Same age.
And then when you check the encyclopedias, also keep in mind that there's, you know, like for example, there's medical encyclopedias, right? Then there's history encyclopedias, and then there's always going down the line, you know. And you just get what you could get. Now, if you see unabridged dictionary, 500, don't get it. You see law dictionary, you know, 500 to 1,000, don't get it. Because it's really supposed to be $60 or whatever. It's really supposed to be, you know, plus the shipping, you know what I mean? It's about $30 because, you know, it's a book like this, so it's gonna be about 25.
You can get it
The
as an
shipping.
app on your iPhone for those of you who have one and you don't rely
I
on
don't
the
do
online
technology, right? Cell phones and
Wow.
all.
So, but yeah, that's
Maybe on a house phone.
as far as the books. Oh yeah, and also too, don't forget, also too, Circle 7 Quran, 101 questionnaire. And yeah, that's probably about. If you have that, you have a good start. You got those two, and you got at least one of these. You know, like in my possession, I don't have etymology dictionary yet. I usually do that online. But Black's Law, Bible Metaphysics Dictionary, you know, medical encyclopedias, whatever encyclopedias we got here, different law books, and unabridged dictionaries. 1930 plus. And then also too, remember with unabridged dictionaries that they stopped probably about 1960. And they started bringing in the soft cover ones and all that. So once you get, well, you know, you're looking for, actually you should say 1930 before. And you could go to 1960 if you really, but the older it is, the better it is. You know? So for the new people, you can get Qurans are up there, Qurans are over there, and 101 questionnaires up there.
Well, for new people as well, you can put how to study. We have a booklet on that. It basically breaks down everything that's on board, but it goes more in depth of how you should be studying, where you should be studying, times you should be studying.
Yeah, what can I
What's up?
Right. So yeah, and one more thing. Everybody heard about let's throw this around again. Everybody heard about Marcus Garvey in here? Familiar with Marcus Garvey? All right. There was a brother by the name of Carlos A. Cooks from the Dominican Republic, and he was the one that took over the African security front for the UNIA. And in this picture, Carlos Cooks is with the African Legion, right? Or the first so-titled African nationalist organization, quote-unquote army, with fezzes on. Just so you know that even that school of thought knew what was up. And it's not something that people don't know, or that we have to convince people that they're Moors and they should be wearing fezzes and Noble Jawali or whatever. You know? People know, and they chose not to tell. And if people know something and they choose not to tell you, and that means they're gaming you. And if they're gaming you, there's no need for you to be following them, or marching, picketing, going to Washington to go see inauguration of people and all that. No need. Right? That's it. Any more questions, comments? Emotional outbursts? Because sometimes, you know, people have those, they run out and never come back, you know. So, again, welcome to the new people. You know, some people ain't new up in there, you know. But good, thanks for coming through. Don't forget to get your stuff, you know. We'll probably be here for a little bit, so you take a little walk around, build or whatever. All our meetings, we close out with the Moorish American prayer. So we have our own prayer. But it's not prayer in the sense of what, you know, people think or whatever. Right? It's just, it's called, catch us. It's called that.
Catechism.
Right?
No, cat.
So it's basically just having everybody on the same mental frequency, so we can vibrate at the same, and then that's what the whole thing with the 101 questionnaire is, the Holy Quran, and us having these type of sessions where we can feed information to each other back and forth. It's not, don't get caught up with, I'm the guy at the front writing stuff down, so that means I'm the, you know what I mean? Like, I'm a student just like everybody else in here. You know what I mean, right? There's no hierarchy or nothing like that, right? So
no big guys or little U's?
Yeah, no big guys or little U's. Yeah, Tallahassee, since you're not here, we'll put that out there, right? So we have a mudra. Mudra is a hand symbol that you use to evoke energy. You know, Haile Selassie does this, Jay-Z does this. You know, all these are spiritual things that they're doing. It's not just, you know, you see gang members do whatever. Mudras. It's not, yeah, you know, it's mudras, right? So our mudra is 5 on the left, 2 on the right. which is 7, because 7 is number of the Moors. Yeah. 5 on the left, 2 on the right.
Okay.
Right? And also too, when you're repeating me, right? Consider everybody being on the same vibration as we say this, right? So like when I say something and you hear it back, it should be, everybody in harmony, in tune, you know what I mean? With same frequency, whatever. It's just gonna be that just because of what this is. Right? We can't escape it. You'll see when we start, right? Go in a couple minutes. We also say that we should have our feet at a 90-degree angle, so we're standing on our square. Because as Moors, and if you look down, we're standing on squares right now. Right? As Moors, this is part of our customs. We stand on the square all the time because we're Moors. When we greet each other with Islam or whatever. When we do our prayer, 5 on the left, 2 on the right. The 5 on the left, 2 on the right is actually 7, which is actually your chakras, line yourself up, whatever. So, and don't get caught up with, things that you might hear, quote unquote, religious terms that you might hear out there. It's not the same thing when we say them. All right? So 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe. Father of love. Truth. Peace. Freedom. And justice. Allah is my protector. My guide. And my salvation. By night. And by day. Through His holy prophet. Noble Ali. Islam. And that's that. Peace. Yeah, shit, that bird. That nice bird. Well, that good bird. No nice. Yeah, all right. The middle part.
This card, give me 5
You
minutes.
wouldn't want someone to do it, man. What time do you finish? Okay, so I know it's on here.
Camera.
Okay.
Oh, cameraman, yeah, just hit that button right there.
Okay.
Yeah.